suffering, attain bliss and birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth. Namo Santo Sucedore, Pelabri Samya Sambuddhoshe. Namo Santo Sucedore, Pelabri Samya Sambuddhoshe. Namo Santo Sucedore, Pelabri Samya Sambuddhoshe. The unsurpassed, the profound, subtle, wonderful Dharma in 100,000 million aeons is difficult to encounter. Now that I've come to receive and hold it within my sight and hearing, I vow to fathom the dust of one's true natural being. All Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Rinpo Shenhua, all good known advisors, Amitabha. First of all, welcome to our Sutra explanation. This year, I'm going to start explaining the Earth Store Sutra. Okay. I'm prepared to have explanations in English and Vietnamese, and possibly, if there's need to, translate into Chinese. You can, if you wish. The Earth Store Sutra is this is a more shorter name for the full name of the sutra is called the Sutra of the Past Vows of Earth Store Bodhisattva. Earth Store is the direct translation from Sanskrit of Kasiti Garba. I probably ought to know that. Okay. This sutra is one of the important sutras in Mahayana because it explains some pretty important concepts, fundamental concepts. And for this year, I've been gradually building up your knowledge. So I decided to extend more details on this sutra, so to help you with your practice. Earth Store. Earth here has a connotation of you can rely upon, and the earth can uphold living beings, make things grow. In the Buddhist sastras, it means at ease, unmoving, like a great earth. And the store conveys the notion of deep secrets and stillness, contemplation. So it's actually quite appropriate for to complement the morning session because it conveys, it explains the principles behind the Mahayana principles behind China as well. The earth has 10 aspects. This Bodhisattva was given this name Earth Store because the Bodhisattva's practice involves, his practice is pretty wide and extensive, okay? Just like the earth. Everywhere we go, the earth is present, it's omnipresent. And so is the practice, so is vows of this bodhisattva. Number 2, supports all living beings. The earth does not discriminate. It supports all living beings. Okay. Such is the practice of this bodhisattva. Number 3, the earth is impartial. It does not favor the good, does not reject the bad. For example, bodhisattvas do not look at demons and say, "You are a demon, you don't deserve to live. I'm going to punish you. I'm going to kill you because you inflict harm on others." A true bodhisattva looks at a demon and you and me as one and the same. Why is that? It depends on what level of bodhisattva. Look, if you ask an arhat looks at you and says, you are not a good person. I do not need to teach you. See, this is an example where when you have spiritual powers, because the bodhisattva, the arhats, can look at you, and through his spiritual powers, he or she knows certain things about you immediately. Okay? And in this case, this arhat here looks at one of my disciples and he decided, she is a defector, therefore I don't need to waste my time teaching her. Okay? So, this is an example of a case where your spiritual powers, when not coupled with the proper wisdom, will be abused, will harm you. Okay? True wisdom in a bodhisattva is impartial wisdom. It does not discriminate. And I'm thankful for that. Had my Shifu discriminated, I would have not been taught. He would have not given me a chance to learn Mahayana, learn Chan. And therefore, I can't teach you. Okay? So, being impartial is one of the virtues of the nature of the practice. Number 4, can we see the great rain? Shou Da Yi. This describes the capacity of this bodhisattva. Okay. The great rain, like the last few days, it's been raining in coastal areas, and as a result, the sewage system is overstretched. The great earth, can you see the great rain without strain? Okay, and shows the capacity, the extent of the ability to take it. When you practice, when you cultivate, when you do Chan, this morning I asked you, okay, I gave you a tip to all of you. You do not want to be comfortable when you cultivate. You should learn to embrace discomfort. At first, you have to learn to embrace pain. Pretty soon, pain becomes discomfort. And then it becomes numbness, and then it goes away. Then you conquered it. Okay? And that is the training of patience. You patiently endure. And just like everything else, when the material is burned out, then it's gone. The pain is gone. Nothing is left but ashes. And then when the wind blows, even the ash even disappears. Okay? So if you're able to endure it, to bear it, good things happen. You get what you want. That's the secret of success, folks. Success involves being able to take it, to patiently endure it until it goes away. Okay? Number 4, produces grass and trees. Grass and trees are beneficial to living beings. And the earth, the great earth, produces good things for living beings. Just like this Bodhisattva, he does good. Number 6, holds all planted seeds. Okay. The seeds are what? The essence of things. And the great earth can help store it. Okay, can help store the treasures. The quintessential, the essence, the cream of nature. 7, produces many treasures. The Bodhisattvas practices for a long, long time, brings forth a result to help living beings. And through his or her practice, they are able to generate a lot of blessings for themselves. Okay? They are the treasure trove for us. Okay? Just like a great earth. Okay? It contains a lot of treasures. Just like this Bodhisattva. And number 8, produces medicine. Medicine refers to the healing capabilities. Okay? Mahayana heals. The nearer you draw to Mahayana, the more of its healing power you receive. No two ways about it. Okay? Folks, your life and death is completely in your hands. Okay? You cultivate, you extend your life. This is what you can do for yourself. You heal yourself, you extend your life. You don't cultivate, you die. You resign to die, you don't cultivate. That's what it means. That's what's coming. That's your choice. Your personal choice. What do you want? You want to give up? You want to keep on fighting? Okay? But, so that's the nature of it. Cultivation, Mahayana, is medicine for you. It heals. Number 9, not moved by the wind. The wind is a metaphor for change, for disruptions, for trouble. The earth is not moved by the wind at all. No matter what happens, no matter how violently the wind may blow, the earth is unmoved. This represents samadhi power. Okay? thus unmoving. Number 10, not tremble at the lion's roar. The lion is the king of the beasts. Whenever it roars, the 100 beasts are frightened out of their wits. That's why the lion is considered to be the king of the animal realm. And when this lion's roar here represents the fact that someone is stronger than you, right? Because whenever that being makes a sound, you cringe, you shrink, you try to hide. The earth doesn't do that. This bodhisattva cannot be affected, cannot be intimidated. How is it possible? What do you think? Is this a fairy tale? Is it science fiction? If you are a scientist, suppose you are a designer, and I ask you, make me something that is fearless, that doesn't cringe when I get mad. What would you create? A lion is the answer. A lion will not cringe at another lion's roar. Agreed? Any questions? That's the nature of the practice of this bodhisattva. Interesting or not? The Buddha realizes this bodhisattva is something special. So he entrusted this bodhisattva a few things. He said, if living beings have in the past produced the tiniest bit of merit and virtue, you go and save them. Make sure that they do not fall into the hells. Okay? Let me backtrack a little bit for our newcomers. In Buddhism, there's a concept of the hells, which is not a pleasant place to be. It's not like the beach or the Bahamas. It is one of the worst places in the world. It is a lot worse than is described in Dante's Inferno, because Dante's Inferno is a work of fiction. Okay, it's a product of someone's imagination and becomes popularized, therefore becomes a standard as a description of the hells. Actually, in Buddhism, when this sutra will go into describing the hells for us, the hells are terrible place, worse than prisons, because in prison at least they respect the human rights. In the hells, you have no human rights. You go to the hells for one reason alone: to be tortured and to suffer. That's what the hells are for in Buddhism. Okay? And therefore, in Buddhism, we all fear the hells. Those who know will try to do things to make sure we don't fall into the hells. So we monks, for example, we recite the Bodhisattva's name, we produce merit and virtue, and when we die, we pray to the Bodhisattvas and the Buddhas and hope for rebirth, so that At least we go to a pleasant place and not fall into the hells. And the Buddha says, not everyone knows about the hells and the pure lands and the heavens. And that's why when they fall, they suffer, they have to endure the suffering and the torture and misery, and because they didn't know any better. The Buddha told Bodhisattva, Ersto Bodhisattva says, you have to watch out and help out those beings who produces even the tiniest amount of merit and virtue. You go and save them, okay? Or when you arrive at Hell's Gate and you can produce the merit and virtue by reciting one Buddha's name, Amitofo, or one Bodhisattva's name. Let's say Ersto Bodhisattva, one in Bodhisattva. Then you can be saved as well. Okay? This Bodhisattva will come and save you. In particular, the Buddha also told Ersto Bodhisattva that you try your best. Make sure that all living beings do not stay even one day or one night in a three evil path, let alone to fall into the hells. Okay? So imagine the kind of work this Bodhisattva is involved in. He's rescuing living beings and prevent them from falling into the three evil destinies. The three evil destinies are the hungry ghost realm, the animal realm, and the hells. Okay? Those are not good places indeed for rebirth. Those are considered falling into a lower realm. Okay? So in Mahayana, when we study Mahayana, it tells you about the power of Mahayana. Because in Mahayana, when you look at, let's say, these statues here, one reverent look, or even make a bow, a half bow, or a nod, incline your head, okay? You will erase 30 kalpas, which is a long time of offenses. Okay? Or you listen to one word or 5 words of this sutra here. In this current life, you will attain peace and bliss. Calamities and difficulties will be eradicated. Every single, for example, this so far I gave you the title of the sutra. The Sutra of the Past Vows of Erstwhile Bodhisattva. That's more than 5 words. In that span of time, I helped erase a lot of calamities and difficulties already. So, you need not waste your time anymore, okay, for the rest of the afternoon. Unless you want more.
No more.
Okay, Erstwhile Bodhisattva is a good guy. He's a really wonderful being. His work involved dispelling deviant minds and controlling the evil ghosts. Evil ghosts are these beings that harass you, that give you a hard time, that bring trouble to you, into your life. You know that? It manifests in the form of what? Sickness. They are behind the sicknesses. You're sick because they come and possess your body and take over that part of your organ and prevent it from functioning. You know that? For example, in your brains, you have a section of the brain, now the scientists give you much more accurate math than I can, that controls your emotions. Part of it makes you depressed. That means that you are being possessed by the ghosts that go in there and prevent its normal functioning. Or let's say you have bipolar disorder. It's an affection of the brain's controls the ups, the manics. Is it manics?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That is because the ghost comes in there and takes over. You know that? There's nothing you can do. You cannot do anything about it. And this bodhisattva has the dharma to deal with it. Why is that? Because a long, long time ago, he was a lay person just like you and me. Okay? And he went by a mountain and came to visit. Actually, he had some powers, but not a whole lot of powers. He had some skills. And he came upon a household of an elder, meaning a very respected gentleman back then in India. And this household was being harassed by a retinue of ghosts, making them very depressed for a long, long time. Sound familiar? Depression? It hit you for a long, long time. It turns out this particular household in India was being taken over by a retinue of ghosts. And the erstwhile bodhisattva back then looked at the household and said, "Boy, that's a lot of suffering. They're in such misery." And he wanted to help. He couldn't. So he came to Buddha and said, "We're honored one. I'm requesting for you to teach me a dharma. Teach me a way to help these beings because I can't stand the suffering." See how compassionate this bodhisattva is. Even way back then, when he had no really significant spiritual powers, he came upon people in trouble and he said, "I want to help. I can't help, therefore let me go ask for someone to teach me how to help." Okay, that's the kind of mindset of a bodhisattva. The Buddha said nothing. He emitted a light and he shone his light on the bodhisattva's body. Okay? And then the bodhisattva said, Oh, I remember now. In a prior lifetime, I ran into a similar situation where I see the ghosts harassing living beings, not that much differently from what happened in an elder's household. And I also brought forth the resolve to help them. Is it far-fetched for you? You don't even remember what happened last year. And yet this bodhisattva here, through the Buddha's spiritual powers help, he remembered in a prior lifetime a similar kind of event happened, and then he brought forth resolve to help these beings, and he didn't know how to help, and then he searched for help and ran into an immortal who taught him a dharma to control the ghosts. And because of his sincerity, the immortal helped him accomplish the dharma in a few days, which is extraordinary. Remember, this morning I asked you to do it for 3 weeks. This guy did it in 3 days. That's good help. Of course, it would happen in 3 seconds as well, but that's a different story. And then the erstwhile bodhisattva back then used his powers to help those households, and that's how he came about. He does have the dharma to control the ghosts, because ghosts are strange creatures. Most of the time, they don't listen to reason. You have to know how to control it. In the world of the five abilities, I explain the five abilities later in the Sutra. Meaning, this is our time right now, our world right now, the world of five abilities. A lot of trouble, a lot of suffering. In the humans, the God's realms, and health as well. He uses the Bodhisattva, uses transformation bodies. He replicates himself and goes to different directions everywhere to rescue and cross over living beings, helping them escape calamities and difficulties. In particular, every single day, early morning, he arrives, he goes through numberless amounts of samadhis. And then he exits his samadhis and he goes to various Buddha lands without Buddhas, like right now, in this, our land. There's no Buddha present right now. And to help living beings obtain benefit, peace, and bliss. In worlds of war, he dispels the war, dispels pestilence, epidemics, famine, and he does it in numberless worlds. See, for the U.S., for us to meddle into Iraq, one country drains all our resources. This Bodhisattva, he meddles in so many, many worlds. Not one country, but many, many worlds. And that's the extent of his spiritual powers, the extent of his powers. You see the difference between keeping the big picture in check versus zeroing on the petty stuff. That's why that's the difference between Mahayana and the non-Buddhist dharmas. The non-Buddhist dharmas are based on attachments. They shoot for short-term goals, petty stuff. Because of that, they'll never be able to attain or penetrate the state of limitless. Okay? What is limitless? What is it? Is it 1? Is it 10? It's more than any of those. It has nothing. That's why it's limitless. As long in your mind you have something, your mind is not limitless, is it? Understand the difference between Mahayana and the non-Buddhist dharmas now? Or Hinayana dharma? Mahayana dharma is limitless because it has zilch. That's why the Chan that Master Chinua brought to this country, the meditation techniques, the secrets that he transmitted are one of the best. Because it has no marks. You let go of everything you learn. You're not attached to anything. Zero attachments is limitless. Make sense or not? Shakyamuni Buddha has 4 great bodhisattvas to help him out. The first one is Manjushri, Bodhisattva wisdom at Mount Wutai in China. The second one is Universal Worthy Bodhisattva. He is a Bodhisattva who teaches you about the Bodhisattva practices. He teaches you how to be a Bodhisattva. Very important guy. Number 3, Guanyin Bodhisattva is a Bodhisattva of great compassion. This is the Bodhisattva who looks at our suffering and he says, wherever the sound of suffering, I'm going to go there and rescue beings from suffering. It's called great compassion. Can't stand to see you and me suffer. So this Bodhisattva goes anywhere to. He's based in to rescue living beings. Freedom from suffering. He's based in Mount Puto. University is based in Mount Emei in China. And Earth Store is based in Mount Jiuhua, 9 flowers in China. Okay? So in China, it's quite popular for Buddhists to go in pilgrimages to various mountains in China, Mount Butai, Mount Emei, Mount Puto, and Mount Jiuhua. Okay? Real popular. You spend a few $1,000 and you have a real good time. But Aristotle Bodhisattva has a Chinese connection. What is his Chinese connection? Actually, he was born in the Tang Dynasty. Okay? The Tang Dynasty, which is about 1500 years after the Buddha's Nirvana. He was born into a royal family. And he resolved to lead the home life at the age of 24, and was given a Dharma name of Shanting, meaning good hearing. Okay. And later he decided to cross the sea by boat and came to China. At the summit of Mount Jiuhua, 9 flowers, he sat and meditated for 75 years. I ask all of you superior cultivators to cross your legs for 1 hour a day. He did it for 75 years.
14 hours a day?
Probably more. And until the 30th day of the 7th lunar year, he became enlightened. Back then, he was 99 years old. And back then, no one knew, of course. And he, there was a rich man called Ge Lao Min. This rich man here, this is in China, remember? He's very rich and very kind and enjoys doing good deeds and likes to practice giving. And he set up a vegetarian feast and invited a lot of monks and nuns to come. And he invited the famous one and not as famous one. For some reason, he invited Shanting, this Korean monk, to join the feast. And this Korean monk happened to be the 100th guest. And after the feast, he kind of noticed the Shanting monk and get to talk to him. And Shanting decided to ask this rich man for a piece of land to build a temple so that he can start teaching and receive lateral disciples. The rich man, the old man, the very rich merchant looked at the monk and said, you know, this 9-flower mountain from top to bottom is all mine. You take whatever you like. You tell me how much land you need. Okay? And Shanting then said, no, I don't need a whole lot. I only need enough land to a land about that my sash can cover. And the old man looked at the monk and said, really? Okay, I agree. So Shanting opened his sash, his precept sash here. In China, this is the sash they used to wear in the Tang Dynasty. Probably don't have the plastic thing. Probably this is made of wood back then, carved out of wood. He took out his sash and then spread it, and the sash covered the whole top of the mountain. That's when you want to use your spiritual powers, folks. You see the good versus the bad uses of spiritual powers? You see? So, and the old man agreed, therefore he gave the monk the whole top of the mountain. That's where the monastery is built. Okay? And later, the old man asked his son to live home life, and the son was given the name of Dao Ming, the way brightness. And then later, the rich man himself, after studying Mahayana for a while, if it happened to you too, left home life too, and bowed to his own son as teacher. So when you see the earth of Bodhisattva, you see a statue of him, and then, let me check, make sure that I got this right. Left and right. I always get it wrong, left and right. Okay? To the Bodhisattva's left is a young man, a smaller statue of a young man. That's the son, Dao Ming. And to the right is the old guy, kind of hunched over like this. That's the old man. So he has two attendants. Okay? One is the father who happened to be the pupil of the son. Any questions? That's the connection, the Chinese connection of this Bodhisattva. Okay, when we should go through, briefly go through the Tiantai Fivefold Profound Meanings to kind of give you an overview of the sutra here, what it's about. First of all, we explain the title. The title refers to a person, meaning earth store, Bodhisattva, and a Dharma, meaning past vows. So this is classified under the person and a Dharma classification, a dual. Okay. Past vows refers to the past deeds. And this particular Bodhisattva made extremely profound vows. He's the king of the vows in Mahayana. He says, if the hells are not empty, I will not become a Buddha. When living beings are all saved, then I will attain Bodhi. Okay? Basically, the hells will never be empty. You know that? Why is that? Because living beings are stupid. They keep on creating offenses, and they have to undergo the retribution in the hells. Because they don't know any dharma to escape the hells. And therefore, some of them are saved, some of them are not saved, therefore they always occupy those hells. And yet this Bodhisattva, he knows it. Don't you think? I think that he should know. If I know, I think he probably does too. And yet he says, I don't want to become a Buddha until all the hells are empty. Let me ask you. Isn't that stupid? Knowing full well that you making a vow of something that would never, never end. See, we Buddhists cultivate to become a Buddha. That's our ultimate goal, right? Ultimately, maybe not this lifetime. Okay? So we do have a little bit of time, folks. Okay? And if we get reborn in the Pure Land next lifetime, then we become a Buddha. Okay? So maybe a two-step kind of thing, two-stage process. This lifetime, we goof off, take it easy, enjoy the cheesecakes and the good food, and maybe lazy a little bit, lazy around a little bit, eat the cheeses and so on. And invest a little bit on the pure rebirth so that we go to the Pure Land and then we gotta make it. Okay?
So we had a chance to go far. This Bodhisattva says, I don't want to ever become a Buddha at all. Make sense for me out of that, please. Why would someone who supposedly has wisdom would indulge in that, would stoop down to that? Is this a mistake or not? See, this is what bothered me for a long, long time. This is part of the 50% that I could not find an answer to for several years. It doesn't make sense intellectually. You know that when you make a vow, that means that
You keep it.
yeah, you have to live by it.
That's right.
Why otherwise? Why bother? And yet you make a vow of something that will never end.
With great compassion.
So what? But isn't it about Buddhahood?
Is it? Isn't it about the great compassion first?
No. Only a selfless being can make that kind of vow. Because if we use our conscious mind, it's too intellectual, it's too smart.
But what about Buddhahood? You haven't answered my question. Don't you want to become a Buddha, Randy? I do. Now. Unlike you. That's why I cultivate. Because I want to become a Buddha as soon as possible.
It sounds like an attachment, and bodhisattvas don't have attachments.
Was it a good attachment? It spurs me on.
There are no good attachments.
Still attachment.
But if I didn't want to become a Buddha, why should I bother cultivating?
Because you want to help living beings, sentient beings.
Isn't it to end suffering?
I think that as long as there's
It's overrated, let me tell you.
okay. I think
You help them, and they bite you in the back.
Yeah, they do.
You help them, they eat it. Because they don't even know you help them.
No.
I
Yes.
think that the Buddha is a kind of a being that we can't relate to because we don't understand the state. The state is of selflessness. And anytime you want something, the self is always very much in charge. So when we do something that we don't like to do or we don't normally would do it, it starts to tear that part down.
You're dancing around the issue. You're getting there, but you're getting warm. But you still haven't answered my question yet. My point is that, intellectually speaking, we are reasonable, logical living beings, right? I'm asking you a really, really simple and very direct question. If I claim the cultivation is good for you, it must have a purpose. The purpose of cultivation, as far as Mahayana is concerned, has an end point called Buddhahood. And yet this Bodhisattva goes out and says, I don't want to become a Buddha. It's nonsense, isn't it?
Gives up ego.
No, he's saying he wants to end suffering.
Yeah.
No, he says, I don't want to become a Buddha because the hells will never be empty.
But until. Oh.
The hells will not be empty.
Mm.
Ever.
Maybe they will.
So basically he says, it makes a vow, if the hells are empty, I will not become a Buddha. He will never be a Buddha. That's the nature of his vow.
But it says here only after all living beings are saved.
This is important, very important distinction, because then I'm teaching you about vows first. Because vows are one of the 10 paramitas in the Bodhisattva practice. I'll cover that later. Okay? Perhaps not the vows, but I'll cover the paramitas in a couple of weeks. This is what the Dharma doors that Bodhisattvas practice. And vows is one of them. To make vows is one of the very important paramitas that Bodhisattvas practice to become a Buddha. And yet, this particular paramita to prevent him from becoming a Buddha. Agree? That's what he says.
I think what you're saying makes logical sense, but I think it doesn't make sense either.
Okay, I've been playing with you because I want to see how you use your knowledge to make a case for it. This is where knowledge becomes non-knowledge. If you know that the health will never be empty, if that knowledge prevents you from making that vow, then you are attached to that knowledge, aren't you? Agree? You become attached to that knowledge. Sorry, Charlie, you missed the boat again. Vegas. So what's the point of me going to school for? What's the point of me learning the Sutra? You learn the principles to free you from all your knowledge. You buy that? No?
So by saying never on there, that's an attachment.
It shows that he's not attached.
He's
that
not
knowledge.
attached. That
Agree? He's not attached to the concept even of becoming a Buddha. Because I tricked you. It was a trick question. That you kind of got close to it. Okay? There's no such a thing as Buddhahood. When you get close to it, it disappears. There's nothing there. What is called Buddhahood is only for your sake. The Buddha doesn't look at him and says, oh, I'm a Buddha, you're not a Buddha, so you serve me. I'm the boss. It doesn't work like that. Buddhas are Buddhas because they didn't look at themselves as Buddhas. We are not Buddhas because we still look at them as Buddhas and us as not Buddhas. See, you attach to your knowledge as well.
Do the vows.
Until I told you that, did you know that you were attached to it? You didn't, did you? None of you knew, did you? That's all we can do, is point out to you your attachments. It's up to you to undo the attachments. That's where cultivation comes in. All I can tell you is she's dying, she's giving up hope, she's not fighting anymore, she's ready to die. It's up to you to do something about it. It's up to her to do something about it. It's up to you. Okay? And number 2 reason for this Bodhisattva to make such a stupid vow is what? This very important second aspect of this concept is that it's limitless. Okay? You still have limits. You say, let's see, a Buddha is probably X amount of living beings saved. I know that one yin save X amount of bodhisattva, living beings from suffering. And that's how one yin became a bodhisattva and became a Buddha already. Let me see. So does it mean when for me to become a Buddha, I should also save at least X plus 1, X plus 2, X plus Y? At least, that neighborhood, right? What does it tell you? is attached to measures. Okay? It's your own attachments, your own pettiness that's preventing you from understanding. The word is there. It says, the hells are empty, I will not become a Buddha. And you say, oh, a Buddha, such a desirable thing, and yet the hells will not be empty, therefore this is nonsense. You're too smart for your own good. As soon as you know, you grasp. You can't let go. Okay? And because the house is empty, because in terms of Mahayana, the concept here is that this is the ultimate form of filial piety, filiality. This sutra here has the key concept of the sutra is the concept of filial piety, which is not known in the West. In the West, our parents gave birth to us, therefore they owe us. They owe us the duty to raise us and then help us out. No such a concept of filial piety, filiality in the Western culture. In Eastern culture, Eastern philosophy, we just the opposite. Filiality refers to the fact that we owe our parents a debt that we need to repay. That's the kind of mindset that is at the heart of Mahayana teaching. So in some senses, at the philosophical level, Mahayana is probably quite a lot deeper than the regular Western way of thinking. It can measure, can grasp, and it takes some time before you be able to understand it. The principle of filiality is very, very profound. Okay, and is at the heart of the Buddhist teaching. Any questions? Okay, that's the title. The substance. Okay, I'm going to confuse you further today. I did give you a warning this morning. The substance. What is the substance of this sutra? It explains about true mark. What is true mark? True mark is that true mark is about the absence of marks. And yet, true marks is also states that nothing is without marks. And that is called the middle way. Any questions?
A couple thousand. First of all, how about a good definition of a mark? Is it everything that
Anything you
you
can
do?
attach to.
You what?
Anything you attach to has a mark.
Anything you attach to as a mark. And
Anything your mind
is
is moved by.
Is it your attachment is the mark on you?
Huh?
Everything you're moved by, your mind moves by anything that's a mark.
Perceive. Okay. Anything that you can perceive has a mark. I went a little bit further because I look at you and say, whatever you perceive, you grasp. I'm trying to tell you that, but you missed that, so I backed off. backed off a little bit. I said the real definition of a mark is that anything that can be perceived by your sense organs has a mark. So far, so good. And Mahayana, the principle of true mark, the true mark in Buddhism is that there's no marks. If you have no marks, you can find something that has no mark, that is true mark. So far, so good. Excellent. Excellent. See? Intellectual pursuit is paying off for you, my dear. I'm impressed. You're beginning to understand. You see, it's not something you can reason. See, they're trying to reason. Either you understand or you don't. Nothing to understand. They trying to understand. You're trying to understand. Of course, you're groping for things you feel familiar. You can put your arms around, right? Okay? That's the nature of the thinking process, the mental process. You're trying to refer to things that you can connect with, you think you understand, you're familiar with. Okay? The true mark, by definition, is the absence of any mark at all. It's called a true mark. At the same time, it also says that everything, nothing is without marks, meaning everything has marks as well. That's called true mark. This refers to, in Mahayana principles, vocabulary, it's called true emptiness, meaning no marks, and wonderful existence, all marks. Okay? It's something called true emptiness, where you go there, there's nothing. Nothing at all. It's called true emptiness. In Mahayana, also a concept called wonderful existence, where everything exists. Whatever you can think of, whatever you can dream of, is there. Okay? Zero or everything. This is what the externalists refer to. The externalists, let's say, some of them, here back then in Buddha's time, refer to the fact that true emptiness, therefore, is nothing there, therefore, when you die, you go back to emptiness. Nothing to work for. So it's okay to go and commit offenses and live it up. Okay? Because when you die, you return to nothing anyway. It's emptiness. Well, wonderful existence. It says that whatever it is will be there. Okay? Whatever you can think of is there. Existence. Mahayana says it's both at the same time. This is only Mahayana teaching, not Hinayana. Small vehicle, they don't have it either. Hinayana only have true emptiness. Well, sort of a adulterated true emptiness. There is not truly empty yet. Okay. Mahayana says wonderful existence, everything you can think of, your existence, your life, you and me, are part of wonderful existence. It's there. You can't deny it. Right? Wonderful existence arose from true emptiness. True emptiness gave rise to wonderful existence. Originally, is nothing there. Because of the falseness, things begin to move and be created. So out of nothing, something was produced, things were produced over time. Okay? And they're still part of one and the same.
If it weren't empty, you wouldn't have any place to put the things you just put in there.
That's right.
So that's why it has to be empty.
but it's not the kind of emptiness you're thinking of.
No, you don't know that.
I know that.
Okay.
It's you who don't know, who doesn't know that. But then you don't believe it.
I believe it, but I don't quite
No,
understand.
let me rephrase it. You find it hard to believe.
Yes.
Any questions?
Isn't it because that when thoughts arise, it's no longer empty? It's us coming into being and creating and making something.
Thought is at a coarser level. It's happened way before that, right? Way before. Thought is very, very coarse. Very coarse form of confusion. Questions? Is it too much for you, Thomas?
No, this sounds good.
Sounds good.
You can take it. He's a graduate philosophy student at UCI, so he gave the lecture.
You guys are way far ahead of me, okay? When I read all these things, like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I said, this is crap. Because it's the only reason I kept on reading 200 different volumes, everything in English that was ever published and printed by the work from Master Shinhua, only because I trusted him, I respected him. I couldn't understand a thing. Didn't know anyone to ask. So I was in the dark for several years, not knowing anything. So for you to say it's interesting, you're way ahead of the game, my friend. You have potential. That's all I can say. Because I admit that I will confess to you that I was confused like heck back then. Still confused right now, actually. So be careful. Number 3, clarify doctrine, the formation principles here that the Sutra teaches us. The practice of filial piety, because why it's important? Because heaven and earth deem filial piety to be foremost. If you want to be respected and appreciated, practice filial piety. You don't have to go out there and build a fortune or give to charity or make a name for yourself or create an invention. The principle here is that if you practice filial piety at home, okay, you'll be respected. And if you are filial yourself, your offspring will also be filial. And one filial son or daughter will bring peace and happiness to the household. Number 2, crossing over living beings on the 9 realms. This Bodhisattva's work is about helping others. Okay? The nature of his work is that never mind about Buddhahood, never mind about my personal goals. Let me take care of all living beings that I come across. What kind of mind is that? That mind is an infinite mind. That is a mind of a Buddha, folks. That's why this Bodhisattva actually is a Buddha. He became a Buddha a long time ago. What kind of nonsense is this? That's how he could afford to make the kind of nonsense vows. That he's infinite. Is it consistent? You say, you think it's not infinite. You think it is limited. But the mind of Buddha is a mind that is infinite. It is unbounded. if you're able to make the kind infinite vows, okay, the vows, that is the beauty of the vows Dharma. The broader the vows, the more infinite vows, the more power to your Dharma, the quicker you get there. It's your pettiness that's holding you back. It's not us. Teachers, it's you who choose to be petty and be limited. You are stopping yourself. So we crossing over in Buddhism, meaning that we cross from one shore of suffering and birth and death to the other shore of enlightenment, of liberation. Okay? Number 3, rescuing of sufferers. Okay? This is a dharma of compassionate living being, a compassionate being. This Bodhisattva is very compassionate. He has his spiritual powers. He went down the hells and all over the world, and then he saw the kind of suffering that living beings have to endure down there. You think your leg pains will hurt so much, even as of today, and you still bitch and moan about it. Wait until you have a chance to have the spiritual power and fly down to the hells and take a look. It is not fun, folks. So, just bear it. Don't bitch about it. That's the next level. And number 4, repaying kindness. That is the nature of filiality. To repay kindness in your parents. I wish that the Western culture nowadays, in the modern times, it seems like all parents are bending over backwards to please and make their children happy. It's the wrong path, of course. You planted the wrong seeds in them. You should be teaching them about filial piety when they're younger. Not the other way around. Not parental piety. Because it's just upside down. The current value system is wrong.
Why isn't this a form of attachment?
What is it?
The heavy connection to your parents. What filial piety means here, taking care of your parents. And I understand.
Have you taken care of your parents?
Somewhat, but probably not like this means.
Then you still haven't understood yet. You see, the beauty of Mahayana now is in doing, not by talking. You talk there, Randy alluded to that earlier. You're talking up here. You're creating mental constructs. You're reasoning. Okay? So all those are false thinking. That's what philosophers do. You know, let me be blunt with you. The modern philosophers are so confused. My brother has a PhD in mathematics from Berkeley. And he says, math is a bunch of nonsense. Because you build nonsense on top of nonsense. That's what we do every day. What's new about it, huh?
You build new nonsense.
You build nonsense on top of nonsense. That's what philosophers do. Their models are so complex, and they're so proud of it. They computerize it, and they make simulation models and so on. Everything, they put a lot of computing power behind it. It's a bunch of, oops. How can you build something true on a false foundation? If you insist on building on a false foundation, you won't get very far. You're not on stable grounds. You're going to be a piece of power leaning over and becoming a could have been instead of a triumph of mankind. That's a pity. Why not? Okay, I'm probably went out on a limb there since there is someone who is in the philosophy department here at the university. By the way, I don't hold exclusive rights to the truth. This is an exchange information and viewpoints. You are welcome to disagree and state your viewpoints. Okay, there's no right or wrong here. I'm only presenting the Buddhist perspective. Okay, maybe shocking to you right now, probably hard to take for some of you, but it's only because your samadhi level is too low for you to be able to grasp it. So be patient. It'll be clearer as you practice. I was in the dark for a long, long time. Trust me. Number 4, describing the function. What's the use of this sutra here? The sutra, this teaching here, this discourse here, is the Buddha usually, when he was born into our world, he rarely spoke Dharma in the heavens. He only spoke Dharma, went to the heaven to speak Dharma only twice. Once to speak one chapter of the Avatamsaka Sutra, and once to speak this sutra, because his birth mother, died 7 days after he was born, and she was reborn in the heavens. And the Buddha, after he finished his preaching, just before he was about to die, he took his disciple and went to the heavens and stayed there for 3 months during the summer retreat and explained sutras. The Buddhists have two time periods where we practice in the Sangha. The summer retreat where we stay inside the temple, we don't go anywhere, and we study sutras and study the teachings. And winter retreats where we also stay indoors and practice Chan. So it's always a balance of principles and practice. Okay? That's what we're trying to teach you here as well. So the Buddha went up to the heaven to teach his mother and teach about filial piety, the concept of filial piety. Number 5, the teaching. What kind of teaching is this in the spectrum of the Buddhist teaching? This is the perfect teaching occurring at the end of the Buddha's career. First of all, after he became enlightened, the Buddha explained the cream of the cream, the cream of the principles in period number 1, the Avatamsaka period, for 21 days, where he explained it to only the Bodhisattvas. Because only the Bodhisattvas had the spiritual powers to know back then that the Buddha was enlightened, and gathered around him and requested his teaching. And the Buddha then looked at the audience and said, okay, for your level, I will teach the highest level of teaching in my Dharma. It's called Avatamsaka. Hopefully in 10 years' time, I will begin to teach it as well, after I finish the other stuff. The second period is that after he finished teaching in 21 days the Flower Adornment Sutra, which is the English name for Avatamsaka Sutra, he began to teach the small vehicle, the Agama, for 12 years. It's called the store teaching. Okay? Agama meaning incomparable. Incomparable because back then he had to compete against the externalists, the Hindus and the Indian practices, and therefore he says my Dharma here is far superior to these non-Buddhist dharmas. That's why it's called Agama period. Okay, so for example, you folks who are in the formless realm, 9th or 8th level of samadhi, okay, you are still within the realm of the mundane. If you cross over to the Agama teaching by practicing Hinayana, then you can reach the Arhat's vehicle and you will become attain a little bit of enlightenment, a little bit of wisdom. And the third period is called Vaipurya, meaning where he taught for 8 years, where Vaipurya means connective teaching. It connects between the Agama, number 2 here, to the fourth one, the Prajna teaching. So he says, okay, I've taught a bunch of Arhats here, and some of them are pretty happy, and they say, okay, I got it made, I'm going to retire now, just like Vietnamese. The Vietnamese would have this tradition where they work hard until they reach the age of 50 and then they retire, and they enjoy life. Okay? They think it's pretty smart. So anyway, so some of these Arhats have some more potential, therefore let me begin them to veer them to a higher level of teaching called the Prajna teaching. But before that, let me prep them by talking about the Vaipurya teaching. So the Vaipurya is preparatory, like prep school for the Bodhisattva vehicle, the Prajna period, which he taught for 22 years. Okay? So some Buddhists, some smart aleck Buddhists who went through especially the Buddhist philosophers at universities, they said, okay, so the Prajna period is about Bodhisattva wisdom. Therefore, you cannot become a Buddha unless you understand the Prajna period. And therefore, Prajna should be a key kind of wisdom that you should specialize in. No, the real kind of wisdom in Mahayana is the fifth period, the Nibbana flower and Nibbana, Maha-Nibbana period, where he taught for 8 years. During this time period, he taught the Earth Store Bodhisattva Sutra. Okay? So this sutra here contains a lot of profound principles. Do not be fooled by the nature of these simple principles. They contain very profound connotations. Any questions? Okay. Sutra. I kept on referring to the word sutra here, and let me quickly explain to you what sutra means. Sutra is Sanskrit that is not translated into English because it contains many meanings, has several meanings, quite a few meanings actually. Sutra means thread, string together the principles. Number 2, it means gather in or trap, meaning that it gathers in or trap the living beings who are ready to be, whose blessings have ripened, whose roots have ripened. They are ready to be taught. Until living beings are ready, you teach them, it's still useless. So the teaching has to be appropriate to the living being's potential. Permanent. Permanent means that it is the same throughout time. The Buddhas in the past have taught the same principles as what we're learning right now, and in the future, the same principle will also be taught. Okay, so that's why it's called permanent. Number 4, method. Method is a sutra. You have to pay attention to these sutras here. Okay? Because my personal experience has been that you cannot cultivate unless you understand sutras. The sutras contains the secrets about cultivation. Sutras are extremely deeply layered. The more you cultivate, the deeper you penetrate the sutras. Okay? Because it contains many different types of methodologies, methods for you to practice. Bubbly spring. Bubbly spring means that it's endless in terms of principles, in terms of flavors. You drink it once, you get the flavor, you get the benefit once. You come back and drink it more, you get more flavors, you get more principles. It's endless. That's why, that's why some people specialize in that one, let's say one sutra, because every time they study it, they work on it, they get more and more out of it. So do not be fooled. For example, in Mahayana, we recite something called the Heart Sutra, which is around 256 Chinese characters, 250 plus Chinese characters. And most people say most Buddhists can recite it by heart. And that particular sutra there is so profound that the more you recite, the more you can penetrate, the more you get out of it. How come you can't see a thing? Because you're stupid. You're too stupid to see. Sometimes it takes time before it's just like dust. It settles, and suddenly someday you look at it, hey, there's a film. It's dirty. It keeps on accumulating every single second. It doesn't stop. Okay? It's just you who can't see it. Carpenter's plumb line, marking line, meaning that you delineate between right and wrong. Okay? The sutras, the Buddhist teaching enables you to delineate what's right and wrong. Without that demarcation, you wouldn't know when you get off on the wrong side, go to the wrong side. Okay? So that's important. The path is a way for you to progress. Okay? It's a roadmap. Okay? You don't want to go without a roadmap, do you? And the garland is like a garland of flowers. You string all these beautiful principles one after another and make it into something else. Okay? Beautiful thing. Entirely meaning you match what the Buddha's Dharma is about to the living being's potential, the listener's potential. You match it through the sutra. The Buddha's teaching, the Buddhist principle is vast, and yet for the particular group of listeners, you want to explain a certain type of sutras so that that's appropriate for them to understand. That's what the meaning of Pali is. Any questions on that? Yes? No? Thoroughly lost? Or what? Or simply don't care? Yes?
It's a lot to take in on that.
Remember what I told you last year? Just let go. Now you can't understand it, but someday you know, just sit there and cross your legs to the point where it hurts so much you can't take it anymore. Just you're about, I'm giving you a hint right now, just when you're about to give up, and you say, one more second, one more minute, that's when you understand the principles. It also, Sutra also has a couple more meanings that I thought I would tell you for your information. Sutra also means the production of goodness. It can transform obstinate into malleable, can change obtuse into nimble, can eradicate offenses, and multiply blessings. So it can accomplish all kinds of good dharmas. It's really inconceivable, folks. It's beyond your understanding, beyond your regular kind of thinking, logical thinking. Listening to sutras, reciting sutras, memorizing sutras has that kind of effect. It produces goodness in you and around you. And finally, sutra also means to manifest the proper principles. See, the Buddha, when he explains sutra, he explains using one sound. And with one sound, all living beings understand it. Okay? And they attain the Dharma and become enlightened. Like the six patriarchs, he listened to one line of the sutra, and he became enlightened, just like that. Okay? So that's why sutras are very important. That's why earlier in the morning I said, when you are really a true teacher, you have to work on your samadhi power first, and then once you have samadhi power, you have to penetrate the sutra store, because then it helps you, so that's your samadhi power, helps you understand, penetrate the meaning of the sutras. If you do not have samadhi power, you will not be able to penetrate the meaning. Like you need to bore into it, and it takes work, it takes power, it takes time. Okay? And once you have the samadhi power, you need to do the proper thing, investigate principles. Okay? And once you understand the principles, you have to explain it to others. And that's the work of the Mahayana tourist. All right. Any questions? What's your impression so far? What is it different from last year? Last year I was tiptoeing around these true mark, true emptiness, and wonderful existence because I was afraid it might scare you off. This year I'm free from that. I said, the hell with it! No. You don't like it? Leave. No, I'm kidding. I can't tiptoe around it anymore because you need to face the truth. Okay? Many of you have reached the level of the formless realm. You're in a formless realm, meaning fifth samadhi and higher. You better understand about emptiness. I admit, it's mea culpa. I've been lax in that. I've been lax in explaining to you about the concept of emptiness. Okay? Mahayana is the Dharma door of true emptiness. What is true emptiness? It's something that you don't understand. You just have to know about it. And eventually you build up your skills and your knowledge to the point where you are able to penetrate it and really grasp what true emptiness is. This is where Shakyamuni Buddhist Dharma is wonderful because he created a lot of experience to help us get there quicker. And if you're willing to put in the work, I'm willing to show you the way. Questions? A few words in the Sutra's translation, kind of a break from these heavy-duty stuff. Okay? I translated from Sanskrit into Chinese, and then from Chinese to English. We owe the English translation to the DRBA, which is manned by Venerable Shenhua disciples. This is one of the important work by the DRBA that I highly applaud. I'm grateful to them for the English translation. It is the best one I found. It's so important because without their work, we'd have no vocabulary to use to explain to you these principles. And for that, let me tell you, I'm grateful personally to his disciples because I owe them my understanding. I owe them the ability, the opportunity to be able to explain it, to use the vocabulary to explain it to you. It is the best, the most accurate translation available of Mahayana principles. If you go to the Eastern philosophy department at the universities, again I'm touching maybe getting too close to you here. The academia may understand about the words, but they don't have any samadhi power to understand the principles. Agreed? Without samadhi power, you cannot understand the depth. You don't have the depth to delve deep into the layers of these different meanings. For example, I keep on talking to you about true emptiness. I can look at all of you and say, when I talk to each and every one of you about true emptiness, I can tell you that you cannot understand what it is yet. It is not what you think. It is not what you can think. Even in the deepest samadhi level, power you have, you can't even conceive of. None of you. I can look at an arhat in the audience and say, you can't understand it either. That's how deep it is. Okay? So how can the non-cultivators who have no samadhi power understand it? And that's why their translation tend to be not as accurate. Okay? So I'm telling you that because to tell you about the treasure trove you have at the DRBA English translation. If you want to investigate Mahayana principles, I highly recommend you read the English prints and the English documents they have there because it is the best, even better than Vietnamese, by the way. Better than Tibetan. Not as good as Chinese because their translation has some inaccuracies because they don't understand all the principles yet. That's why they translated some of the principles right. Some of the high level principles they don't translate or they don't understand it, and therefore it does not get translated. That's why if you investigate Mahayana, the best source is still Chinese today. You have to learn Chinese if you really want to penetrate Mahayana. As I see it today, I don't see the idea being able to penetrate the Chinese meaning, even of Venerable Srinivas' teaching. We're not there yet. You have to learn Chinese. If you want to go beyond the level of the English, you have to learn Chinese. Okay? How's that for another secret that I give out for free every week? Not only do I not charge you, I give away free trade secrets.
Maybe you'll translate.
It's called utmost stupidity, isn't it?
Master.
But,
Maybe you'll translate it.
but until you reach a certain level, English is still the best. The Vietnamese English translation is still the best for all of them. For a long, long time.
In this lifetime will be fun for you.
Yeah, this lifetime. Take it easy, man. Generally believed to be translated in the Tang Dynasty by a very famous monk called Shikshamna. He's very famous because his name means delight in study of the Buddha Dharma. He's very well versed in both the small vehicle and big vehicle dharmas. And he's so virtuous that he's well respected by his contemporaries and by the kings and the queens, and made believers out of them. And in fact, have you heard of Kumarajiva, the famous translator, Chinese, the Indian translator who went to China to translate the major sutras? He's so famous, and his contribution to Chinese Mahayana is one of the biggest. The Venerable Kumarajiva was translating the Avatamsaka Sutra, the Flower Adornment Sutra, the cream of the sutras in Mahayana. And he had a section where he could not understand it, so he had to wait until this monk came along and asked him questions. And he himself translated 80 chapters of that sutra along with the more sutras. He understands it, but his Chinese is not that great, not as good as Kumarajiva. That's why, even though he has the understanding, but he did not have the knowledge, the language skills. Therefore, his translation is not that as popular as Kumarajiva's. Later, this venerable monk here, virtuous monk here, high-level Sangam here, died, and miracles happened, like the tongue didn't burn when they cremated his body, and they brought him back to his native country and put him in a stupa to worship. Any questions? Okay, let me end today by giving you an overview of the sutra itself. Would you be interested? Maybe last time I see you. So at least let me give you this overview before we part our ways. 3 roles. Sutra is kind of a short sutra. 3 roles. The roles were brought back from India, and 13 chapters, divided into 13 chapters. And let me give you an overview of the various chapters' contents. Chapters 1 and 2 introduces you to a superhero, our hero, Earthstore Bodhisattva. He can transform living beings, create numberless replication bodies, deeply enter defilements to transform living beings. Not for fame and profit, but through filial piety. He looks at all living beings as his parents. That's why he's doing this course.
Is his parent?
That's why I asked someone earlier, how filial are you to your parents? They said, somewhat. I said, see, that is not really filial piety yet, because this Bodhisattva here has the numero uno level of filial piety, because he can look at you and me and say, you are just like my father and my mother. I admit, I will confess to you, I'm not there. I look at you and say, I can't stand this person.
You see emptiness when you look at him.
I empty myself, but I still can't stand you. That's different, okay? This Bodhisattva, folks, this is true Mahayana wisdom, folks. If you can look at me in the eyes and forgive me for my sins and my mistakes, okay, then you should be teaching me. Okay? Furthermore, if you can look at me and look at the next person, next dog or earthworm as your parent, you there? Isn't that profound?
Yes.
You want something deep? There's nothing deeper than that. Work on it, work at it until you get there. That's it. Now you can go home, be happy. You know anything there is to know about Mahayana?
That's beautiful.
For today.
That's beautiful, Master.
Understand a little bit more about filial piety now?
When you say piety, it makes a difference about the attachment part. I just wondered about the question part of it.
You're still wondering. Okay. Too much processing, my friend.
All the time.
So there's some kind of attachment somewhere.
Give it up.
And not only he's doing filial piety out of thing for himself, it's really to help him escape the three evil destinies and avoid suffering. See, I remember when I was working and managing as a manager, the people I didn't like, I loved to watch them making the same mistake over and over and over again. I wouldn't say a word. That's how I treat the people I like or dislike. Meanness, talking about meanness. Yuck. Chapters 3, 4, and 5 tells you the kind of living beings that Erstwhile Bodhisattva has affinities with. What are these living beings? He found the worst. Remember, see, filial piety is the number one virtue. What's the opposite of that? Those who are not filial tend to be the worst kind. And they're not respectful to triple jewel, create offenses, and they're supposed to suffer a lot for the mistakes. And the Bodhisattva says, it's those kind of people I want to help. Isn't it interesting how certain people choose to live their lives? Most of us, the smart ones, we serve our self-interest. We go and get an education, try and find a good job, kiss up to our boss, work our buns off, save money, kiss up to our old and dying relatives, hoping for a good inheritance. If you asked me earlier, when I was younger and available, I'd say, marry to rich. What the hell? Why do I have to work for it? We even figured it out a long time ago. It's about time men. There's something about it. Okay. You marry for rich. Why not? Has always worked. Some people has and don't even know. And so that's just a smart and logical thing to do. What does this Bodhisattva do? He goes out and says the worst kind of offenders. Okay? Chapter 6, 7, and 8. To help these living beings is not that hard, actually. It's much easier than you think. These chapters tell us what it is. We create the merit and virtues. We offer incense, we recite sutras, we create banners, buy banners and give it to the temples. Create images, these statues, these paintings, these carvings, these things are good things to sponsor, and various good things that you can do. And when you create merit and virtues like that, then you create the hooks and the handles for him to come and help you later in the future when you are in trouble. Okay? Sounds like good news to me. So you during the day you do 10 bad deeds and you do 1 good deed. Still pretty good. You still come out ahead. You still have hooks. You still have handles for him to come and rescue you. And the final chapters explain because this is about Buddhahood. Some of you might be wondering about that. Explain the causes for Buddhahood. And for that, people tend to develop faith and believe in giving and cultivate. All right. Any final questions? All right. If not, then yes. No. No question.
If there's emptiness, there's nothing, and existence is 100%, and the middle ground is halfway through. Is that emptiness half full? No, I didn't think so. Okay.
It's not in the middle ground either.
What?
It's no middle ground. It's one and the same.
One and the same.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's both.
It's both.
Well, that has bothered me in thinking about that you talk about the middle ground and yet the two things combine, and I don't mean just these two.
Middle means that it refers to the fact that the externalists have either zero or none. I mean zero or everything.
Or everything.
There's nothing in between. So the Buddha came up with the name middle ground, the middle way, to say, hey, there's something in between that you haven't thought of. And that's the nature of the confusion right there.
Okay. No,
There's no middle.
it's called that, but there's no matter.
Yeah, middle way, because there's something between these two extremes called middle way, but that itself doesn't exist.
Okay. Well, that's exactly correct.
Not to me. Because I listen to myself, huh? That middle doesn't exist, and why do you call it middle?
No, it could be, if there's nothing, there's nothing.
The nothing that you are thinking about is not nothing. That's precisely what the problem is. It is not nothing yet until you have enough samadhi power, my friend.
Okay.
You see why the importance of chant? If it weren't for the importance of samadhi power, the patriarchs' lineage would not. They would not have chosen the chant as the main means of transmission. Think about it. If it weren't for the importance of building the samadhi power and concentration power, they wouldn't have bothered with asking you to bear the leg pains and work hard, because it represents a methodology, systematic methodology for you to develop your skills and progress. You know, you should consider yourself to be so blessed for being able to hear what I just said. Another trade secret. Okay? You need to have chant. You need chant. I don't care what you call it. You can call it Pure Land, you can call it secret school, doesn't matter. They all are based on chant principles. All the foundation of these secret schools, whether it's Tibetan or Japanese or Chinese or Pure Land or whatever, okay, they're all based on the chant principles. That's why it's so important to develop concentration power. I hope you walk away from today's lectures and getting an appreciation of the essential nature of developing your concentration power. It's you who have to develop it. That's why the Buddhas cannot help you. They can only teach you. They can show you the door, the methodology. You have to develop yourself before they can use it. They can't give it to you. You see, this is what makes us different from the other practices. I do not wish to waste your time. I realize that, especially in this day and age where you are under tremendous economic pressure, professional pressure, okay? My claim to you is that chant can help relieve all those pressures if you're willing to invest a little bit of your time every day. Your time is well spent. Okay? And if you stumble into other teaching, you do more reading or attend other meditation or Pure Land classes, I urge you to look into the first of these approaches. They all have to be based on concentration. Without concentration, you will not make it. You cannot penetrate. You cannot bore into the granite. You buy that? This is why all the patriarchs in that lineage, they all are accomplished chant patriarchs. All of them are chant patriarchs. All of them. Because it represents the quickest and the most fundamental way for you to unfold the wisdom. Next week I explain to you more about wisdom and enlightenment and so on. Okay? Let's see, next week. Yeah, that's next week. In slide number 32, 22, so 10 more slides, I guess. Okay? It takes power, it takes force. You cannot free yourself unless you harness the power inherent in all of you. You know that? You are equipped with incredible power that you can tap into. It's not me, it's not the Buddhas, it's not the Bodhisattva, it's all in you. For example, you, in 1 year's time, you're able to stay on top of your illness. So far. Right? Come on. It takes a lot of strength, a lot of power.
Not easy.
It takes a lot of hard work. Okay? You found a way to tap into it, then you're in control. You don't know how to tap into it, you're wasting time. You're wasting your opportunities. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm probably better off in kissing up to you and saying, oh, how great you are. I'm so happy you're here today. I hope you come back tomorrow or next week. I'll be nicer next week. Maybe next week I lower the price a little bit. Oh, by the way, make sure you make these new guys pay.
I thought you were going to pay us.
Oh,
yeah.
Next week I start paying.
Okay. I'll come back next week.
Okay, I would be, in no time I fill up this Buddha hall, and then I become so famous, and then I become so rich and powerful. My disciples will number in millions, probably more disciples than my own teacher, and all these famous monks combined. What for? I'd rather you get something out of it and get something you can use in your daily life. To me, that is cultivation. It's not about principles. Principles, what is it? I can talk to you about principles. I mean, Tripitaka is about one bookcase full of principles in the 5 periods of teaching. Agama, Purya, Prasnya, Avatamsaka, and Lotus Nirvana, okay, teachings, all those, I summarize all in one principle. Become more filial. You become more filial, you understand all these principles. I mean, it's going to take me at least 10 years to explain to you. Okay? There are many ways to skin the cat, if you pardon the expression. Okay? There are many ways to approach it, to slice it. But the point is that, the bottom line is that, follow what the patriarchs. Oh, you understand English, by the way, or is it you need a Vietnamese translation? Because tiếng Việt là, oh, okay. They invested so much time in teaching and transmitting the Dharma door of time so that we can use it to deeply penetrate the principles and unfold our wisdom quicker. That is a real treasure, folks. Okay. And again, the samadhi, the development of concentration power is from doing, not from talking. Just like this morning I explained to you, after a few years with me, a few months with me, and you wonder, say, gee, I don't know what I learned from this guy. I waste time, I spend money on the gas and mileage, put mileage in my car and come and practice, and after a while, I don't know what I learned. You don't have to know. You develop the concentration power in yourself already. That's what you got. You did it for yourself. I can't take it from you. You steal it from me. I can't harm you anymore. I can't steal it from you anymore. Because it's yours. You earned it yourself. It's It's even better than the money in the bank. Banks go, they go belly up, and they wait for the federal to bail them out. Now you have it. Now, in every single waking moment of your life, you have it already. You can access it. You can withdraw. You can use it. But you don't want to work for it. Then I can't help you. You have to work for it, folks. Okay? Any questions? Final comment? Is it too much? Let me ask you. Since you're not asking, I'm going to do the asking for a change. How do you feel about the sales pitch this year?
Which one? The Sutra?
Which one?
Very good. That was good today, Al.
Sutra or morning, whatever you want to talk about. Well, what's your feeling?
Sutra have true marks.
Okay, sounds good, but I don't know what he's talking about.
Don't start, no.
You see, I will admit to you that I'm deeply influenced by my master and my personal preference, because my master, he saw me for less than 2 minutes and he kicked me out. And so I appreciate the time that a teacher invests in you. He only gave me a few minutes and it changed my life. So the last thing I want to do for you is waste your time. So if I have 1 moment of your time, I try to make it worth your while so that you get something out of it you can use. Okay. The rest is up to you. I can tell you that I'm very grateful for all of you returnees, because you've been working very hard, and it shows. The growth I see in you, I've been watching, is incredible. Because when I came back to this country in 2001, I went to Long Beach Monastery, and for the last time I went there several months ago, last year, I looked at the people there, and you know what I saw? Zero change. Zero change. These are the left-home people who studied under my master, who do it professionally, full-time, who devote their life to so-called cultivation, who learn the Dharma, who transmitted the Dharma. They transmit the Dharma that I may not even be able to transmit to you, even if I want to. I'm not allowed to. Okay? They have a mountain of dharmas to practice. They have the monastery, they have the money, they have the food, they have the adoration, they have the security, they have everything that you can ever need for cultivation. And they have zero progress. And for many of you, in a few months' time, in less than 1 year, in 2 years, 4 years, for you to reach your current level of cultivation, you are outstanding. the majority of you surpassed those professionals already. Surpassed even like the people who taught me when I first became a monk. You've been working very hard, and I'm very impressed. The point is that someone said earlier, will you allow yourself to do stuff? Okay, so in the future I explain more about the various dharmas. So any questions or comments about yes?
I think
Time is up?
they have something.
Yeah, I'm always running behind schedule, so nothing new about that. They usually have to pick me out at all the temples I go to. Okay, let's wrap it up and do the transference.
We're going to do it in that language?
Which language? Let's see.
Ladies' marriage. I see. Okay.
Chinese? Okay, take your pick.
Okay.
English, Vietnamese, Chinese, or Cantonese?
English.
Huh? English. So this week we do English, next week we do Vietnamese, and the following week we do Chinese. And we rotate. Okay? So that I can claim to be impartial for all languages. May these merit and virtue